we can just use our own hands and we can create structures for ourselves. I'm Miguel and I have a business, Living Earth Structures. I build structures, benches, ovens, saunas, garden walls, out of the earth. These structures are living organisms. They're built right out of the earth. The material that I work with is called cob. Cob is an old English word. It means a lump or rounded mass of earth. And the process of doing cob is you get the sand, you get the clay, and then you do a little cob dance. You sprinkle the straw in and you mix it up with your feet. And really, that's really the best way of mixing up cob, is with your feet on a tarp, and then you get that cob material, and then while it's still wet, and then you sculpt it, and then it dries in the sun. You know, and learning how to do cob is actually very easy, much easier than any kind of other conventional building technique. One can learn how to build a cob house, pretty much a basics of building a cob house, in a week. Cob is great because you can have kids do it without any construction experience at all. You can have elderly, you can have people with disabilities, you can have people with, businessmen. I mean, you can have anybody come together in a community workshop and do cob together. One of the greatest things in our workshops is to build an oven, for example, and then to be able to fire it up that night and to be able to make pizzas that night. That's a lot of fun.
I heard you say that.
Traditionally, earthen ovens, wood-fired ovens, were always used by a community to break the communal bread, and they would gather around and they'd tell stories and they'd kind of get to know each other around the oven. So the oven was always the hub of a community. Besides being used for cooking, it can also just be used as a really nice outdoor gathering space. You can just use your oven that's enclosed in nice benches to feel like you're sitting inside of a hug and you're around this fire, and the whole sitting area gets nice and warm. Cob differs from adobe in that adobe is basically cob, sand, clay, and straw, but adobe is made into square bricks first. And then you let those bricks dry for about a week, and then you set those into the wall. I use them for the backs of my benches. And we're putting it, the flat side down to shove some cob in here into that joint. And then kind of twist it in and then work it in to the one below it. One of the great things about adobe bricks is that people without much construction experience can come and they can work and they can make adobe bricks. Once you know how to make an adobe brick, you can make hundreds and thousands of adobe bricks because there's really not much skill involved in it. You just need a form and you need some dry earth and some flat land to work with. And once you have all the adobe bricks made, a structure can go up in a day. And then put about 6 inches of cob on the outside of that. And then put some colored bottles up there on the ceiling to bring in some colored light. So cob is such a fun building material because you can do so many rounded shapes with cob. You can be very rounded and curved and even sensual shapes with cob. And you're not limited to square structures. You can have a lot of fun in the creative sculpting aspects of cob. A really good way of coming up with a design for cob is to make a little model. I just got some little stones, kind of put those in for the foundation and put the cob around it. And so this was plastered. I used a lime sand plaster and I sealed it. When you're making a bench, you can really sculpt it to fit your body. So you can kind of sit down in the cob and you can kind of feel how it feels. You can make it as comfortable as you want. You can make it kind of go all the way up your back. You can make it so that there is a little headrest right here. And you can really make it very form-fitting for the body.
Good armrest is an important thing.
And you can put your positive energy into the cob, and you can receive the positive energy from the cob. I like to think of it as like a nice exchange of giving and receiving, because you feel like you're receiving a massage when you're working with the earth, and when you're dancing in the cob, you get a foot massage, and then when you're sculpting with the cob, you actually then are kind of massaging the earth, and so it's a really nice exchange. I started getting into cob back over 15 years ago. I've done a lot of traveling around the world. I spent some time in Chicago building an oven, ovens and gardens, and I built benches on the sidewalks, and I built a nightclub, an organic nightclub in Chicago. It's called the Butterfly Social Club. All the benches, and tables, and DJ booth, the whole thing was all sculpted out of cob. And that was really to give people living in an urban setting an experience of being surrounded by earth. I did a workshop in Argentina where I helped build a Waldorf kindergarten school. And that was really where I really developed the sculpting abilities of cob, and I started playing around with what you can do with cob. You can take the mixture and you can sculpt trees on the walls, and you can sculpt niches, and you can arch out doorways, and I saw how fun cob was. I mean, cob is just, it's like the ultimate work party medium. People can come together and they can dance in the cob, and it just feels really, really good. There's a new movement. There's really a renaissance right now in the natural building movement, and there's workshops, and there's conferences and conventions. There's a lot of new kind of discoveries happening and things that people are trying out. It's a pioneering effort right now, and better ways of plastering and sealing and protecting your structures. If cob is protected right, and if it has a good plaster and a good sealer, and a good roof, it can last forever. There's cob houses from England that were built 500 years ago or more, and many of them are still being lived in. Cob is, I think we're meant to build with cob. I really think that us as humans are intended to use this earth for building our livable structures. But my gosh, when I encounter a pile of clay that is perfectly sticky and malleable and dries really hard and really fast, I get so excited and I feel so wealthy. I feel the abundance of the universe when I encounter a great source of clay. It's like a gold mine for me. So this is a really good clay. That satisfaction of looking at the finished product and saying, I helped do that. And everybody needs that. That's so fulfilling for the soul and for the spirit and for the heart and for our humanity, is to feel the healing and the satisfaction of our accomplishments.